in the United States alone are dealing with some degree of erectile dysfunction. There's a lot of men struggling, and they are struggling and suffering in silence because this isn't being talked about.
The relationship ages as well. The connection with their partner starts to decay and decline. And as that aging happens, now you lose the interest and the connection and the attraction. And when you lose that, a lot of the sexual function declines as well.
How do we fix this? How do we get your flow going again? It doesn't necessarily have to be genital. We just want that closeness. We want that bonding. We want the joy. We want the passion of a life that's lived all the way until the last breath is taken.
So we have the potential to become better lovers the older we get, even though our bodies start to age and atrophy, and we can do things about that. We gain a lifetime of knowledge.
Hey there, it's great to have you back. My name is Stefan and I'm your host for the Ageless docuseries, where we prove that age is really just a number. This episode will be a perfect example of that. In our society, we rarely talk openly about intimacy and relationships, which is causing us a lot of harm. We know that amazing intimacy starts with an amazing relationship with our own body. It's a subject we explore on our health and wellness platform Zonia in a show called Creating Deeper Connections, Relationships, Love and Sex. Check out Zonia on the page below. Inside Zonia, you'll get access to short video content from over 150 certified health practitioners and integrative medical doctors. These short videos are called Health Bites, and they cover all you need to know about reversing premature aging. They cover detox protocols, innovative therapies, nutrition, and workout programs for every health issue, age, and body condition. You can start your journey with any health bite you choose and see how simple yet transformative some of these action-packed videos are. And it's really simple to use Zonia too. Simply log in from your phone, tablet, or computer and try the health bites that attract you the most. Imagine how proud you would feel to finally get consistent results on your health goals. Whether you want to lose weight, feel and look better, cook new healthy meals, or learn about a disease that you're dealing with, you'll learn how to do all that from the world-class experts. Every health bite is expert curated to help you become the best version of yourself. So take a minute and join Zonia before our series ends to get on-demand access to all 10 episodes of Ageless. However, if you decide to join Zonia later, you'll still get access to over 1,000 health bites on Zonia and all the other valuable content, but the Ageless docuseries will be gone. So don't procrastinate and join Zonia today. Now going back to the topic of today's episode, let's see how we can deepen our relationships with ourselves and others and how transformative this process can be for your life. Because these things aren't just pleasant or satisfying. They can also rejuvenate our bodies and improve our health and longevity. Listen how intimacy can regulate your blood flow, brain power, and your body's entire system.
The benefits of sex as we age are myriad. The very first one is that it's actually a vascular event when you make love. And when you're pushing all of that blood flow, it's great for your heart, it's great for your cognitive function, it's just a healthy event. Another thing that's really important about having good intimacy until you die, the day you die, I want to go out having great sex the day I die, is that it's great for your hormones. You push a lot of oxytocin, you release vasopressin, prolactin, so it's leveraging and utilizing hormones and your hormonal system in ways that other things you do don't have the same effect. Another thing that's very healthy about making love is that our body fluids are actually good for each other. I know this sounds crazy, but in semen, there are many, many benefits for the partner. There are over 20 ingredients in semen that actually help you be more healthy. There's serotonin, which is a mood lifter. There's luteinizing hormone that regulates all your other master hormones, even after menopause. There's zinc for cognitive function. There's testosterone, which is wonderful for giving us courage and, get her done attitude and things like that. So there's so much in that, as well as in saliva when you're kissing. Our bodies are very symbiotic and supportive of each other from a health perspective. And then, of course, you can't forget all the oxytocin from being held and being loved. And also another really important thing that you get is co-regulation. And co-regulation is when two people soothe each other. And we need the time out from our busy lives to have those moments of soothing or co-regulating each other's nervous systems, as well as orgasm being a fantastic nervous system reset. It kind of reboots our system in a way that nothing else does. So those are just, in addition to the things like feeling loved, feeling connection, feeling belonging, those are some of the actual physical manifestations of why having good sex your whole life is so valuable to your health.
It's not just about the physical act, it's also about building connections and feeling appreciated. But for us as humans, sexual activity goes so much further. Cultivating it can be very beneficial to the mind, body, and spirit if you approach it the right way. To break all the taboos and make you a more empathetic partner, in the next section we will debunk the biggest myths about sex and aging you've probably fallen for. So are men and women sexually equal? Does menopause mean no more sex? Is communication a deal breaker? I'm sure you'll enjoy the lighthearted but very useful answers by Susan Bratton.
So we have the potential to become better lovers the older we get. Even though our bodies start to age and atrophy, and we can do things about that, we gain a lifetime of knowledge. The thing that's interesting about sex, so many people harbor this resentment with their parents, like, my parents never told me anything about sex. And I say to them, well, first of all, when you were living at home with your parents, if your parents even kissed each other, you would give them the biggest eye roll. Oh, Mom, Dad, stop it. You would hit. They couldn't even have talked to you about sex if they knew what to talk about. And so I often have to tell people, forgive, forget, and move on. It's not really your parents' job to teach you about sex. Even if you would have listened, which you wouldn't have, it is your job to learn about your sexuality. If you are a person who cares about your sexuality, it is really a part of your personal growth. And as we age and we go through the decades, in the 20s, everything is new. In the 30s, many of us are having our children and we're exhausted and we don't have time for sex. In our 40s, we start thinking, oh, well, the kids are finally having sleepovers elsewhere. Maybe mom and dad can actually have some sex again. And then by the time we get to our 50s, we're like, oh boy, use it or lose it. You're starting to feel your mortality. But if you keep up with your sexuality, because all of sex is learned skills. The interesting thing is that a lot of people think you should just know what to do. A lot of people think they do know what to do and they don't know much. But really, it's gaining the skills over the decades that make you a better lover as you age. So you're a better lover in your 60s. Frankly, at 61, I'm having the best sex of my life. Fantastic. Because I do regenerative therapies and I learn new skills and I've had more time to practice them. So that really creates a perfect storm of the last part of your life, especially with a good health span, with good longevity, you can be having the most incredible sex of your life. So one of the things I do is spend a lot of time dispelling myths about lovemaking as we age. I want people to understand that their best sex is ahead of them, not behind them. That as they get older, they get more skill and they enjoy themselves more. When you're older, people often are more willing to let go of body shame issues, which plague especially younger women. It's like, well, I'm going to die soon. I might as well use it instead of lose it, right? I mean, you just kind of let those things go after a while. And that helps you connect to yourself and connect to your partner. So I think that the myth of I have to be perfect to be sexually desirable goes away. Another thing that I think is a myth that I often explain to people is that there are so many of my fans and followers who are in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, and even a couple in their 90s who are making love multiple times a week, even daily, with no problem at all and having an absolutely wonderful time. As a matter of fact, even people in old age homes are still making love with each other. I mean, really, you never... If you're healthy, and that's your libido, your desire for sex, your libido, your horniness, is really the other side of the same coin as your health. So if you keep yourself healthy, your libido will stand the test of your lifetime. You can be born with desire and die with desire. And it doesn't ever have to go away if you're healthy. The last thing that I would say that is the most common misunderstanding about sexuality is that in a way, men are born with some sexual competitive advantages over women. Not that we don't have plenty of advantages too, but men have more testosterone generally than women. That makes them just want sex more often. They are biologically wired to masturbate to keep their sperm fresh because we're here to replicate ourselves. That is what we are doing. And men need to be ready because women's desire is a little more inscrutable. When is she going to want it? So he's got to be ready. So he's thinking about sex more frequently. And he has a third competitive advantage, and that's the advantage of what's called hemodynamics, which goes back to fast-acting blood flow. The penis being a straight shot is a much easier thing to get engorged with blood than a female's genitals, which are more, I always describe them as an English muffin. Now, usually I make my mouth water when I talk about this little analogy, but you know how you get an English muffin out of the refrigerator and you open it, you cut it in half and you get the toaster out and you put the muffin in and it pops up, but it's not quite toasty enough. So then you have to push the thing down again and it pops up. Okay, now it's nice and toasty. The butter is hard as a rock because it's been in the fridge. So you get the butter and you put it on the muffin and you smash it together. And then you have to wait for the butter to melt into the nooks and crannies. The nooks and crannies are basically the female genitals. So what happens is that men are ready to go. They're born ready. They wake up ready. And women, we're on this 28-day cycle. Even after menopause, we still have our moon cycles. And what men have to do, and this is the trick I always give to guys, I say to them, your number one sex technique is turn around and come back and get us ladies because you're way ahead of us. The train's already left the station with you and we're still packing our suitcase. And so we need you to help get us aroused. Don't be mad or feel rejected because we're not making the overtures. It's just not necessarily what we'll do all the time. Don't rely on us for it. You hold the torch for the sexuality and slow down some more, and then go half as fast as that. So these are some of the myths that men and women are equal, that sex ends at menopause, et cetera, et cetera. These are not truths at all. These are just things that we've told ourselves. These are limiting beliefs.
Many relationships are built on limiting beliefs and false myths perpetuated over generations. But it's often our organs refusing to work properly. It's no secret dysfunctions and low libido are the biggest buzzkill for many couples. Stay with us for the next part as Dr. Keisha Ewers will break down the hidden causes of low libido. And at the end, we'll have entertaining yet valid advice for both sexes by Susan Bratton.
So my PhD is in sexology, and I'm the mother of functional sexology. You could say the inventor of functional medicine sexology, right? Functional sexology. And I talk a lot about what blocks the flow of, you could think of it as libido, but from Eastern philosophy, if we pull it from Ayurvedic medicine, which is the 10,000-year-old sister science of Ayurveda or of yoga, they have a word called Ageless, which is life force vitality. And life force vitality, you're born with a certain amount, and when you burn through it, you die. That's the way they think about it. It's Jin in Chinese medicine. A lot of Eastern philosophies have this word that encompasses more than sexual intercourse. So when I talk about sexology, I'm talking about this larger dynamic, the desire that you have, the passion that you have for the life that you're living. And it can include sexual intercourse as well as other sexual dynamics on a physical level, and also that energetic, emotional, spiritual component that is I'm fully present with myself and this life that I'm living. As you age, science has shown us over and over and over again the importance of sex. You know, that actually releases oxytocin if you're with another person. So one of my studies that I did, the Healing Unresolved Trauma study or HURT study, I was asking women what interrupted or got in the way of their sexual libido. And what I found is there were 5 root causes, and they occurred in the body, as in disease like hypothyroidism or cancer, autoimmunity. They occurred in the mind, as in I don't feel like I'm pretty enough, I'm not good enough, or this person had an affair and I'm upset with them. Emotional, again, I'm hurt, I feel sad, I'm depressed, anxious. That's going to interrupt that flow, which I point to the brain. We'll talk about that. That's also important. Spiritual, which can occur with a lot of, there was like a purity movement in Christianity where desire is not okay because it can lead to sex before marriage. And then now you're married, poof, you need to turn on your desire. That often doesn't work. And so spiritual can be in the way. And then also your story. I call it your libido story. So along your human growth and developmental stages from conception to wherever you are now, were you wounded in any of these places, sexually or otherwise? So trauma. This is really important when we talk about libido and desire in old age, because sometimes women will come to me and they'll say, when I think I need bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, and my sister or my mother or my friend got some from you, and they look and they feel fantastic, and I want some of that. And when I start asking questions like, so why do you think you need hormones? And they say, well, I don't have a libido anymore. And I say, well, when's the last time you had a libido level that you were excited about? I often have people start crying to that question. Well, never. Right? Sometimes I'll say, well, do you like your partner? Oh, tears. Well, they had an affair 5 years ago. I've forgiven them, but I don't really feel like having sex with them. You know, and in these cases that I'm describing, hormones are not the answer, right? This is something quite different. So when we're talking about aging and sex, we have to pull these 5 root causes of a lowered sexual desire, right? So when a woman comes to me and says, when I have intercourse, it feels like I have cut glass in my vagina, hormones are appropriate right there. I love sex, I love my partner, and then at menopause, boom, all of a sudden it hurts like crazy, right? Then I don't have to explore that much further. I just have to test, and then we fix it. So it turns out that low libido comes in two different categories: acquired, as in it was good for a period of time and then it wasn't, or innate, as in there never was any. So there was never sexual desire for self during adolescent years. There was never sexual desire for another person. This often is as a result of OCD, anxiety, sexual trauma, other kinds of trauma in childhood. So when we start talking about healing these things, this brings forth vitality, right? And in old age, we really want to be able to have that juice flowing, that oxytocin between our partner and us. We want to be able to have that vitality. And sometimes, people will say, that ship sailed and I'm glad it's gone. And I'll say, well, I think you're talking about intercourse right now. What about the dynamic between you and your partner? Is your partner also saying, I'm really glad that ship sailed? Or is this just a subject you never talk about and you've swept under the rug for 30 years? You would be shocked at how many people say yes to that. They just don't talk. Just goes away into the night and no one ever talks about it being gone. And so bringing these subjects forward, and saying, okay, so where's the juice in your relationship? How do we fix this? How do we get your flow going again? It doesn't necessarily have to be genital, right? Yeah, we just want that closeness. We want that bonding. We want the joy. We want the passion of a life that's lived all the way until the last breath is taken.
One of the things that happens to men as they start to get older is a degree of erectile dysfunction. Roughly 30 million men in the United States alone are dealing with some degree of erectile dysfunction, and that percentage will actually kind of correlate to the age. So 50% of men in their 50s, 60% of men in their 60s, and so on and so on. What this means is that there's a lot of men struggling, and they are struggling and suffering in silence because this isn't being talked about. And to me, the most scandalous part of this whole thing is that the only thing that we have to offer men is a prescription, a little blue pill, right? Nobody's actually sitting there and saying, well, why is this happening in the first place? How can we prevent it? Better yet, when it does happen, how do we cure it? How do we fix it? And this is kind of where I have a soft spot in my heart for, right? I actually want to be able to tell men that yes, you can heal your ED and you can do so in a relatively fast way with simple lifestyle changes. Now, of course, there are certain circumstances where a man might have had a certain trauma to the area or some sort of other incident, perhaps a surgical intervention that might have went wrong, and that's a completely different story. But when we're talking about men who just developed ED, we'll call it garden variety ED, over time, as a result of high sugars in the diet, excessive consumption of alcohol, eating a lot of grains that destroy the gut, and many other things that go into this as well, we know that we can actually fully correct that ED by simply, again, addressing those lifestyle habits.
So when we look at ways of optimizing or improving men's sexual function, we look back to the causes. Now, the biggest cause we talked about earlier is vascular flow, poor blood flow, insufficiency. So how do we address that? Well, that can be affected through diet and lifestyle. I often talk with my patients about nutrition and how much it directly affects sexual function. And they're like, yeah, I don't think so. Well, let me explain. Nitric oxide, the hormone that causes increasing dilation of blood vessels to increase blood flow, is affected by insulin sensitivity. When we are insulin resistant, meaning our body is not processing blood sugar well, nitric oxide does not get produced. And so that directly affects sexual function. Well, what causes insulin resistance, issues with that? It's our diet, it's what we're eating. When we're eating the wrong foods, it causes massive blood sugar fluctuations, which ultimately affects insulin sensitivity. So I tell men what you're eating is directly affecting sexual performance. We can look at things such as stress. And I don't just mean psychological stress. So often the high-performing individuals I work with tell me, I'm not stressed, I'm fine. Well, I say nonsense. You are stressed, you just don't realize it. But there's also stress from your microbiome, your gut, the bacteria in your gut. When they're imbalanced, when they're out of whack, when the bad bacteria are outweighing the good bacteria, it's affecting neurotransmitter function. It's affecting hormone production. It's affecting everything. And that's a stress to your body that you don't even recognize. Sleep is affecting stress. So often men will burn the midnight oil and stay up till 1 and wake up at 4 and think they're fine on 3 hours of sleep. They're not. It's crushing every hormone in their body. It's raising cortisol, it's making them store fat, it's affecting cognitive function, but it also directly affects sexual function. And so when we look at ways of improving it, it's eliminating all these sources of stress, stress from nutrition, stress from sleep, stress from psychological stress. Sometimes stress comes in the form of overtraining. I see guys who will train very hard every single day, and we can measure it and see that they're actually overtraining their body, stressing their body, and that's affecting sexual function. And so these are natural ways that we can look at improving sexual function by addressing that cause.
So Mother Nature has played a cruel trick on us couples. As we age, we wrinkle, we see the outward signs of our aging. You look at a person who's 50 and then you look at them again when they're 80, they're smaller. We lose in size and stature. We have what's called, in the non-technical world, shrinkage, right? So we're getting tinier and tinier, and that includes our genitals. And what's interesting is that as our male-bodied partners age, they have penile atrophy. Their penises actually shrink. And for female-bodied partners, our vaginas, the tissue in them, as it shrinks, it becomes more lax. You get something called vaginal laxity. And so as the mucous membranes shrink, they pull apart. And one of the ways that you achieve sexual satisfaction is through good musculature. You actually have the grip with your partner. And that's what helps instigate orgasm. Orgasm is a contraction and expansion of the body. And if you have muscle tone loss, vaginal laxity, penile shrinkage, then of course it becomes harder and harder to achieve orgasm. In addition, but wait, it gets worse. Now I'm going to give you the solutions for reversing these, so don't get too worried about it, but this is what happens and why it's important to understand regenerative therapies, is that in addition to the penis getting smaller and the vagina getting bigger, if you will, in a way, the actual erectile tissue of the genital system starts to atrophy as well. And the way that sex works, the way that sex feels good, why it feels so good, is because of blood flow. And as we age and our blood flow begins to diminish, we lose what's called nitric oxide. A lot of people think, oh, well, I mean, my sex life's just not as good because my hormones are, I have fewer hormones. And actually, hormones are have less of an effect on your sexual satisfaction than your nitric oxide production and stores. Nitric oxide is a gaseous signaling molecule. We have a couple of liters of blood in our body. And when we're thinking, we need the blood to go to our brain. And when we're exercising, we need the blood to go to our heart and our muscles. And when we're making love, we need the blood to go to our pelvic bowl. And if we don't have good vascular tone, if we haven't been exercising and taking care of ourselves, we can't get the blood to get down into our pelvic bowl. And if we don't get enough blood into our genital structures, they don't get what's called engorged or too messed. We don't get a hard-on. And what that means is not just that there's erectile dysfunction, but that we also have sensation loss. So I want to revisit that in 1 second, but I want to say one really important thing that I think hardly anybody knows. And that is that if you think about the penis, imagine a banana. So there's your banana. Well, in a man, half of his penis is from his belly out, but half of his penis is from his belly in and down to his testicles. So what you see is actually twice as big. And if you pretend that that whole structure is a banana and you peel away the skin and you're left with the fruit, that fruit is the erectile tissue of the penis. Now, what I want to tell you, and this is the part that's, I didn't know half of the penis was inside the body. Okay, that's interesting. But here's the really interesting part. And that is that as women, we have a full banana's amount of erectile tissue in our vulva, our female genitals. And we have the same erectile issues that our male-bodied partners do. But everyone's focused on the man's erectile function and not the woman's. We have flaccidity, sensation loss. We struggle to achieve climax. And what's interesting about it is that for a lot of people, they feel like they can almost get there, or it takes them so long to get to climactic satisfaction that they get frustrated. In closing about what happens over time, I want to say that is, as women, when you think about that banana's amount of erectile tissue, think about, I took your clitoral structure out of your body and put it in your hand. It would cover your entire palm. We have a lot of, so blood flow is as important for us as it is for our partners. And to kind of wrap it all up, when we don't get that blood flow, our genitals stay small. And when they stay small, they don't have the ability to send as many signals of pleasure to our brain as when they're plumped up. So when they're full of blood, they have all this larger surface area sending more signals to the number one sex organ, which is our brain. And so these are the things that can go wrong, but luckily they're all reversible.
You probably chuckled hearing about sex in these unusual terms, but they're all true. Most sexual problems are reversible as long as you know what to work on. We're aware of how difficult these topics can be, so our guests will give you some help. They'll tell you how to communicate with your partner without being awkward and what might be holding you back from sexual fulfillment and how to recognize the dynamic in your relationship. Make sure to take some notes.
So for men to have good sexual function, they really need three main things happening down there and one happening up here. One is they need good blood flow down there. And as we age, we know that we have issues with atherosclerotic disease, vascular disease, that affects vascular inflow where men need it most. As men age, hormone levels decline, specifically testosterone, thyroid, DHEA, growth hormone. All of these hormones are intimately related to sexual function. And so as men age, a big reason for decline in function is those hormones aren't working properly. The third main thing you need for good sexual function in men is nerve function. And when you suffer from neuropathy, nerve injury, as men age, if they had any surgery down there, diabetic issues, insulin sensitivity issues, these all affect nerve function. And so if any of those issues are affected, men's sexual performance declines. The fourth part of that, which happens up here, is men need to have the desire, the interest, the connection with their partner. And what happens a lot as we age is the relationship ages as well. The connection with their partner starts to decay and decline. And as that aging happens, now you lose the interest and the connection and the attraction. And when you lose that, a lot of the sexual function declines as well.
Probably the number one thing that holds people up from having the intimacy and connection that they crave, or the kind of lovemaking that's satisfying for them, is the fear of speaking up and asking for what they want or saying when something's not working. We have and carry a lot of shame about our sexuality and our sexual desire. It comes from our culture, from our religion, from the fact that our parents didn't model that, partly because we didn't want to see it, and partly because they just didn't. And so we often feel shame for the things that we want. A lot of women say to me, I don't know what I want. I just know what I'm getting isn't it. And I disagree with them and I say, oh no, you know. You know what you want. You just need to listen to your body. Your body is always telling you what she wants. She's letting you know if it's too hard, if it's too soft, if it's scratchy, if you want more of that, if you want less of that. And so then it really becomes, it's not that you don't know what you want, it's that you're afraid to give voice to your body's feelings. You have a felt sense of what's right and what's wrong, and you need to speak it for your body because she can't speak it. That's your voice. And I teach a technique called the Sexual Soulmate Pact. And it's basically an agreement between partners that is so comforting because here's how it works. We make this agreement that we're going to tell the truth about what it is we want in the moment because we're always different in every moment. We're always evolving, we're aging, we're maturing, and we have, how much sugar did we eat? How much sleep did we get? How hungry are we? How thirsty are we? So we're different in every moment. So our partners can't possibly know what we want. They try their best to guess. They love to give us what we want, but they don't know how to do it. And so the single thing you can do to have the best ageless sexuality is to learn how to speak and ask for what you need in the moment and have your partner graciously take the information in. And the way that they can assure you that they can graciously take it in is by thanking you for giving it to them. Honey, I don't like that. Can you stop and move over? Yes, I can, darling. Thank you. Honey, you're on my hair. Can you get off my hair? Yes, thank you for letting me know. I really like that. Can you do that until I say stop? Yes, thank you. When you get the thank you from your partner for speaking up, it empowers you to know that it's okay to ask for what you need. It's crazy that those two little words can ignite passionate lovemaking like nothing else. The most common emotional obstacles to intimacy are lack of worthiness. I'm not worthy. I'm not lovable. That is a core trigger for people. It's a core trigger for almost everyone at some point in their life. And when you don't feel lovable, how could you feel sexy and desirable? And so it's really important if you don't feel lovable to really work on that and to ask for what you need. One of the things that I find really, really good is a little game called 3 Things I Love About You. And I've been playing this with my husband for 31 years. And it's an unlimited request for what you love about me. And I'll say to him, can you tell me 3 things you love about me? Especially when we're starting our lovemaking. Can you tell me 3 things that you love about me? And he'll say, yeah, I can. And he'll go through and list 3 things. And we try to never say the same thing again. You can find an infinite number of things that you love about your partner. And for women especially, because we're estrogen dominant, we need reassurance. We need reassurance in a way that our male-bodied partners don't, because testosterone makes them confident. I'd say actually a little overconfident. Men tend to think they're better than they are, which is why women are so afraid to hurt their feelings by giving them feedback, because they're like, I know what to do. You don't need to tell me. But when they start moving into thank you, and they start being encouraging, and they start verbalizing their love and appreciation for us, it really helps us get over the fears and the concerns. So when you can feel comfortable asking for what you want, when you can feel comfortable asking for appreciation and acknowledgement, and it goes both ways. It's a never-ending request cycle from both of you. What men want is to be respected for doing a great job. They want to win. Men have a pecking order mentality where women don't have that. They're community-minded. What we want is to know that we are both desirable and adored. And if we get too many times, if the partner's just focused on objectifying us, what's sexy about us, we're like, is that all you think about? We need the balance of the adoration, the three things that you love about us, to kind of level the playing field and make us feel like we're worthy and loved. And so I think the emotional issues are mostly around worth, whether you're doing a good job, whether you're desirable. And we can fix those things. We can overcome those traumas that have happened to us as children and young adults and go on to live a very, very satisfying and loving and connected partnership. A lot of the things that I've been talking about require partnered sex, asking for the things that you love about me, etc. But there are a lot of people who aren't partnered or who don't want to be partnered. And the great thing about your sexuality is that it's your sexuality and it's available to you at all times. And self-pleasuring is a beautiful thing. That is our birthright. There's nothing wrong with it. It's good for us. And there's many, many ways we can explore self-pleasuring. So there are a couple of little tricks to keeping your sexuality really thrumming with life and lust your whole life long. And by the way, there's something very, very important about your sexuality. When you are still highly sexual, when you love sex, when you have a great sex life, people can tell. There's something about the people that have a great sex life that their eyes are brighter, they have more zest for life. Your sexual passion and desire is also your passion for other things in your life. You have a more passionate life when you have a great sex life. And it's so funny. It doesn't matter how much money you have, what you look like, how much schooling you've had, how important you are. None of those things have any relationship to how great your sex life can be. We have the opportunity to nurture our sexuality our whole life long. As I've talked about, we get better with sex as we age. And one of the things that I like to teach people is how to have what I call a sex life bucket list. And it's kind of like, if you don't have a map to where you're going, you're never going to get there. So what is it that you want to explore? One of the things that I always recommend that people have on their sex life bucket list is some sort of learning how to expand their pleasure palette. Whether that's learning a new orgasm skill, because the body has 20 different ways of achieving climax. It's not just one pathway. We have 20 pathways to pleasure, both the male and female body. So we have this one thing we do, but we could be doing a lot of different things to have pleasure. So that could go on your bucket list. You could learn pleasuring techniques like tantric lovemaking or sensual dancing together. Your sex life can grow with things like erotic massage for each other. As an example, that's a wonderful thing to try. The self-expression of beautiful lingerie and posing for photos and going and doing photo shoots or shooting video. I mean, there are so many ways to bring artfulness and beauty and expansion of pleasure into your sex life that if you're doing the same old all the time, you're leaving a lot of pleasure and joy and connection on the table. So a lot of times when people come to me, they say, I'm the high desire partner and my partner is the low desire partner, and I want them to want me more. And it's funny because there are more women who have the low desire in heterosexual or partnered couples. So men come to me more often, but it's not only men and women. It's more and more men because of all the endocrine disruptors and the loss of testosterone and the bad diets that are ruining their erectile function. And so they can't have sex anymore, and they don't realize that there are all these regenerative things. So when couples come to me, I always say one question: when you got together, was the sex good? And if it's a no, I can't help you, because there was something else that happened, most likely sexual trauma. And that's where you need to go to a therapist and work one-on-one to unwind the trauma, the betrayal, whatever would have happened. But if sex used to be good, you can not only get it back, but you can make it better. You can have a sexual renaissance in your relationship. And often it's simply understanding how to have fun again together, how to not just focus on intercourse, but to expand yourself into having more pleasure, physical and emotional pleasure together, and how to schedule sex dates. And when I say sex, I don't mean intercourse. A lot of times couples are very intercourse focused. That's what sex is. And it's not. I mean, if you think about what we normally think of as foreplay, well, then there's sex. And that's not what it is at all. All of these things are fun. And so when you can get couples they come to me all the time and I say, try this thing, try yoni massage, try a new toy, have sex in a new place. I give them, 3 or 4 different ideas, and they come back and they're like, oh my God, it was so good. We're having a great time. Thank you so much. And it's the easiest thing in the world, but it's the forest for the trees. People can't necessarily just see that themselves. They need the ideas of what to do. And that's really what I do in my world, is I give people sexy ideas. So people come to me for mismatched libido. They come to me for loss of sexual function and painful sex. Those are probably the 2 most common. And then the third one is I don't have a partner and I'm lonely. And often People think that there's no one out there for them. And the thing is that we all have love to give, and we're all valuable and lovable. And people get caught in this, like, oh, there's nobody out there for me. And once they start to put themselves out there, online dating apps, having friends introduce them, they'll meet the love of their life. And so a lot of it is we hold ourselves back through lack of information and lack of self-belief in our own worth. And really, that's all my magic wand does, is to help people see the possibility for themselves.
This episode was full of surprising, funny, yet important information. I hope that the vibe of our experts encourages you to foster your relationships and never neglect intimacy. The truth is, we all have love to give, and we're all lovable. We just need to find our own language and learn to communicate, and everything else will follow. Because better intimacy means better health and improved longevity, right? Of course, intimacy isn't just one part of the story when it comes to healthy longevity. What about all the other puzzle pieces of longevity? The answers are just a click away. I invite you to check out Zonia 100% risk-free for 7 days. Inside Zonia, you'll get access to carefully curated health content from more than 150 world-class naturopathic and integrative doctors, nutritionists, mindfulness coaches, sleep experts, celebrity chefs, and yoga and Pilates coaches. These experts took the latest science and their own rich experience in the field and built action-based short content that is enjoyable and easy to follow. This is 100% original content that you will not find anywhere else, not on YouTube and not even on Netflix. They cover detox protocols, innovative therapies, nutrition, and workout programs based on every health issue, age, and body condition. So if you want expert advice on how to transform your hormonal health, gut health, immunity, memory, how to lose weight or prevent chronic disease, and how to improve your sexual function, pleasure, and intimacy, Zonia's team of over 150 experts have prepared actionable steps for you. Also, if you register for Zonia right now or before this free screening ends, you'll get on-demand access to all 10 Ageless docuseries episodes and all other docuseries we have filmed over the years. So please take a minute to check out Zonia so you don't miss out on any of the Ageless episodes. Thank you so much for watching and listening to this positive message, and I hope to see you in the next episode where we'll talk about your surroundings. So far, we've only covered what's within your body, but our environment is what shapes our reality. You'll discover the potential threats in your home and how to safeguard yourself from toxins. As a bonus, we'll also share the best medicine for anxiety, which you'll find very useful for managing toxic emotions. As always, thanks for tuning in. We would be delighted to hear back from you. Please share your thoughts in the comment section below. I wish you all the best, my friend, and I'll see you soon. Much love.